Hey, what is going on, guys? So on this channel, we have covered lots of not so subtle and pretty obvious productivity flaws that a lot of us are guilty of having. Things like constantly getting distracted, multitasking, all that kind of stuff. But today I want to talk about 5 things that you may be doing that are subtly and secretly killing your productivity just as surely as all those obvious things. And an alternate title for this video, to be quite honest, could be 5 things that I am doing that are killing my productivity, because this is sort of a video we sat down and wrote, me and a couple of good friends, and I just kind of asked them, like, what do I do that makes me a less productive person? And the first thing we're gonna talk about here is probably my number one flaw when it comes to my professional life, which is perfectionism. I constantly overthink things, and I have this tendency to want to tweak things again and again and again. And if this went unchecked and I was allowed to do this, I would probably never actually publish anything. And actually, for a really long time, about 5 years ago, my business stagnated for about a year and a half. And part of the reason for this was that I didn't have myself on a strict publishing schedule. So I would allow myself to just kind of tinker for months on one project without actually getting it out. And then around August of 2014, right around the time I actually started doing YouTube, I put myself on a strict publishing schedule. I told myself I am going to put out 1 podcast episode, 1 video, and 1 blog post every single week, regardless of whether or not they are perfect. And as a result, my business actually started to grow. And another huge benefit to doing this was that after I published 10 or 20 videos, none of which were perfect, but all of which were actually published in a timely manner, I started to realize that my view of perfection was something that I could have never attained at the start. And this whole idea of doing a lot of work to gain skills over time through learning and through mistakes is reminiscent of a story in the book Art and Fear about a ceramics teacher who divided his class in 2. One half of the class was told that they would be graded on the quality of a single pot, while the other half of the class was told that they would be graded on the quantity of pots they created by weight. And something interesting happened at the end of that class. All of the objectively best pots that came out of the class were created by the quantity group, not the quality group. See, while the people in the quality group spent so much time theorizing about what would make the perfect pot, all the people in the quantity group spent time actually making pots. And through making mistakes, over time, they got better than the quality group could have ever hoped to get through pure theory alone. So if you're like me, if you struggle with perfectionism in your work, then put yourself on a schedule. Give your projects deadlines where you have to put them out into the world or put them away and move on to the next one. All right, so the next bit of dirty laundry that I'm gonna air out here is what I like to call organizational sludge. These are the tasks in your task management system that haven't gotten done, have been overdue for 2 weeks. They're the stuff that's been laying on your desk or in your inbox for weeks that you haven't processed yet. Basically, over time, any organizational system or area in which you do your work is gonna get a little bit messy, just bit by bit, until it starts to sap your efficiency. It's kind of like that story of the frog sitting in slowly boiling water, which actually, is that true? Okay, it's definitely not true, but the metaphor still holds. In the story, the frog is basically a-okay with the water as it gets hotter and hotter and hotter until it dies, and it's the same with your organizational systems. You don't realize that things are getting kind of crusty over time until you start really losing efficiency. So what I like to do is have an organizational day every single week where I look at my systems. I look at my task management system, I look at my calendar, I look at my room, my inbox, my backpack, and I ask myself, how can I reset this back to a usable state? All right. Item number 3 on my list is taking inspiration from too many sources, either online or authors or whatever it may be. And this is something I really struggle with. So for example, one of the people I love following on Instagram and YouTube and many other places actually is Gary Vaynerchuk. I take a lot of inspiration from him and I really look up to him as a creator. But at the same time, I also really like people like Peter McKinnon and Liza Koshy and Cal Newport, people who put a lot of time and artistic energy into singular pieces of work that take a really long time to produce. So I'm admiring these people over here and I'm striving to be like them, but on the other hand, I've got Gary telling me I need to put out more content every single day, put stuff on Instagram and Snapchat and Musical.ly and YouTube, and I can't do both, and that's the problem. I'm following all these people online and I feel like I can be like all of them, But when I step back and I really think about it, Gary Vaynerchuk is very successful. Liza Koshy, very successful. Cal Newport, very successful. But Gary Vaynerchuk does not have the life of Cal Newport. He's not doing new and original research into computer science. And by the same token, Cal Newport is not spending his time making incredibly polished comedy videos. He's teaching students, he's writing books, and he's doing research. And he's definitely not building a Snapchat empire. So at the end of the day, I need to realize that I can really only be great at one, or at most a very small group of things. I can't be just as good at everything as all the people I'm following online are, because they've kind of chosen their lanes and they're staying in them. And I kind of have to do the same if I want to keep doing really good work. And before we move on to the next item, I do really want to mention that another very related point here is that it's very easy to try to please everyone. And when you're trying to please too many people who have lots of different desires, you're going to spread yourself too thin, just as you would if you were trying to follow too many influences. So whatever the kind of work you're doing is, remember that at the end of the day, you are the ultimate authority as to the direction that it should go in. All right, item number 4 on our list is believing that you are the exception to the rule. What is the rule? Well, the rule might be you need to sleep 7 hours a night, or you need to close all of your tabs and Slack and your instant messenger when you're writing a paper on your computer. Or, like we just talked about in the previous tip, that you can't be just as great as all the diverse online influences that you follow. And again, this is a huge problem for me. I run a self-development channel and I constantly tell people that you have to focus, that you can only be great if you have a few objects that you're pursuing. And yet I constantly tell myself, or at least like there's this little part of my brain that constantly tells me, yeah, but you're the exception. You can do all those things. As long as you figure out the most efficient learning techniques out there, you can do them because you're good enough. And that's not true. That's just self-delusion. That's just me fantasizing and trying to turn it into reality, and that's a fruitless pursuit. So whether it's my particular problem of spreading myself too thin, or it's believing that you can pull an all-nighter, realize that no, you are most likely not the exception, and that you should probably follow the established best practices for whatever you're trying to do. And that brings us to our final subtle productivity killer, which is the refusal to acknowledge and adapt to delays in your work. This is actually something that my friend Martin said was an issue for him, but when he said it in the car when we were talking about it, I realized that this is also an issue for me. Essentially, when I plan to do something and I hit a delay or something comes up and interrupts my work or takes longer than expected, the next day I'll often wake up and sort of trick myself into believing that I can do everything that didn't get done from the day before while still doing everything that was planned for today. And Martin put it really well. He said you have to realize that if you have a delay in your work, then where you are right now is your new starting point. Regardless of what you may tell yourself, you can't do everything from the day before and all of today's stuff. If you didn't get it done yesterday, why do you think today is going to be any different? Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't work hard and try to catch up if you can, but the problem is a lot of us beat ourselves up when we can't catch up like this, and then we end up just getting further and further behind. So instead, try to be flexible. Adapt to your new starting point, rework your plan, and move forward. Additionally, if the delay was caused by your own procrastination or some productivity failing on your part, don't beat yourself up about that either. Consider that the first mistake. And as James Clear would say, what you want to avoid is the second mistake, the one that starts a trend. As long as you can hop back up on the proverbial horse and keep riding, then that one mistake isn't really going to hurt you in the long run. After all, making mistakes is an essential part of growth as long as we can pinpoint what caused the mistake and learn from it. And speaking of mistakes, nowhere is that point more true than in the realms of math and science. These are two disciplines where mastery is nearly impossible without tons of failure and its associated learning. And if you're somebody who wants to get better in these fields, then you should absolutely check out Brilliant. Brilliant is a learning platform that takes an incredibly active approach to teaching math, science, and computer science. And throughout their courses on topics like logic and probability and calculus, gravitational physics and solar energy, and computer science topics like algorithms and machine learning, you'll find yourself thrown immediately into challenging problems that not only boost your interest in the subject, but immediately give you something to sink your teeth into, something to which you can actually apply all the concepts you're learning really quickly. This approach to teaching this material means that you're not spending a ton of time in lectures or wading through introductory material. You get right to the heart of the subject, and as a result, you learn more effectively. So if you are interested in learning more about math or science or computer science, and you want to start learning for free and support this channel, then head on over to brilliant.org/ThomasFrank, which you'll find in the description down below. And if you're among the first 83 people to sign up with that link, you're also gonna get 20% off of your annual subscription. I'm gonna give a huge thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring this episode and helping to support this channel. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then a like is appreciated. You should also click right there to subscribe so you don't miss out on new videos when they come out. And you might also wanna grab a free copy of my book on how to earn better grades right there. Additionally, you might wanna check out our latest podcast episode on how to give a killer speech right over here, or you can watch one other video on this channel by smashing your face into your phone screen, as always, right here. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.